We all have dreams and goals we wish to achieve. Most of us have this idea of what we want our lives to look like, something we want for ourselves. But for whatever reasons, maybe the fear of judgment or our own inadequacies, or even circumstances, a large majority of us don't go for that one thing that we want. Sometimes we don't even try. A dreamt life left unlived, and that dream dies within us. I don't know how to transition into this next part, so just imagine I said some profound shit right here, some Sansu type of shit. Because here we have Enkrid, a youth who picked up the sword on a whim, and initially, just a sweet simple thought, he thought to himself, man, how nice it would be to be a knight. And thus he left his small town and went on to become a mercenary. But he sucked, like he was trash, because after more than 10 years of training, he meets this kid who recently picked up the sword, and he gets bodied. Like, he imagine how demoralizing that has to be. And it's now that he realizes that he truly sucks, and that dream he has wanted for so long starts looking a bit too difficult to reach. And oh boy, he lowers his dream. Now in the army, he goes to war in chapter 1 and dies. Obviously, he wakes up again and he discovers that dying won't be easy for him, but I wish to mostly focus on his mindset in this video, because unbeknownst to him, his goal of being a knight suddenly becomes possible, and his first obstacle or task is to defeat this strong opponent. And he fails, like he fails over and over and over again, and every time he fails, his opponent looms over him with a smile, because failure means death, and all he can do is desperately look at his opponent. But he continues waking up each day and facing the obstacle. And after dying 21 times, he realizes that the reason why he's failing so much is because when things get hairy, he flinches and closes his eyes. And so he decides to fix that. And after trying over and over and over again, he manages to dodge an attack with his eyes open. And for the first time, it appears as if he's done something. But he dies again, because the fight doesn't end after just one attack or a missed one. So he needs to learn how to attack. He tries attacking and his attack is pitiful, damn near pathetic. So he tries and tries and fails and tries, not once, but over 123 times. But finally, day 124, one of his attacks is finally decent, and right there, right then, he improves. Being better than he previously was, he faces his opponent, but he dies again. But this time, something's different. He's different. His opponent moves to finish him off, but he just grins and declares that he'll be the final victor. Waking up the following day, he prepares himself and the war begins again. This time, he's ready. He'll win for sure. He dodges death over and over and over again until finally meeting his opponent. They go at it and it's intense. But Enkrid has his goal in his mind, and he doesn't care what he needs to do to win. And win he does. And that victory is the reward for his hard work. And looming over his enemy as he had loomed over him, he takes his victory. Finally, that large wall has been conquered. But just then, he gets kicked by a frog. And even though it was just one hit, he's in excruciating pain. Luckily, his squad saves him, and even though he almost just died, he is better than he was previously, and he vows not to give up. Bandaged and bruised, he wakes up 2 days later and starts training. Now, this isn't a recap, so I'll just get to my point. After that incident, Enkrid faced more challenges and stronger opponents, and every time he would fail repeatedly. I'm talking like he would die over 100 times, failing dismally. But every time he failed, he'd learn something and improve. Instead of getting crushed, he treats every failure as an opportunity to learn and improve. Every time he had time or a chance, he'd use that as an opportunity to improve. Again, not because he was obligated to do so, but because that's who he was and what he did. He wanted to be a knight, and for obvious reasons, that was what he had to do, and it's just that simple. And whenever he told anyone his dream, they would burst out laughing and ridiculing him, but he didn't pay them no mind and continued training. Not to prove them wrong for doubting him, no, but because he wanted to, and that was his journey. Doing this boring improvement every day didn't immediately give him the results, but oh boy did it help. And the crazy thing is that everyone saw him improving his own life and respecting the craft, and were inspired to change, because if there's a way for him to improve, he'll do it. And in his words, he said, "Hard work will never betray me." Waking up every day and treating his dream like an obsession, but somehow I feel like obsession isn't the right word, because don't get me wrong, This word fits him perfectly. He is obsessed with his dream. Maybe it's social media, but obsession has this connotation of suffering for what you want, which isn't necessarily the case, or doesn't have to be the case, because even though he suffers every day, Ingrid is enjoying himself and he loves every moment of it. And that's a fantastic mindset to have. And I'm not trying to sound like some motivational guru, but hey man, if you have a body pillow, fuck it. In fact, each and every one of us had this mindset once. Think back to when you were a kid. Maybe it was naivete. But we all believed that we'd achieve our goals at one point. And when we grew up and realized how difficult things were going to be, we began imposing limitations on ourselves. In fact, there's this quote.
Want to know a little secret? Most teenagers out there feel like they're invincible. Not the Superman kind of invincible. The kind of invincible that tricks you into thinking tomorrow might be a better day to start chasing your dreams.
And what if all of us had this mindset again? Because despite all the complications, it's just that simple. Wake up and do what you want to do. You want to be smarter? Read a book. You want to be stronger? Go to the gym. You want to be wealthier? Go out there and make some extra money. And always be careful of limiting beliefs. Heck, even I have them. Even the best of us have them. Like that boy Sam with Wickedy said, just do it. It's not for anyone special or some grandiose reason. Why not do it for you? Look at Nick giving out advice that I really want. I don't know, man. Some people can be physically unable to do certain things. But is that for certain?
What?
Maybe. I don't know the circumstances. How unbearably naive I feel right now. Anyway, that's all, folks. Don't know what to say that.
Is he allowed to say that? Legally?